Project Wise, Lessons You Don't Learn in School. I learned everything I know about love, life, and getting ahead in one of the last places most people would ever want to live, the infamous Brewster Douglas housing projects on Detroit's down and dirty East Side. Unless you came up the way I did, you might not know much about Project Life. Maybe your idea of the hood comes from the movie Precious or a few grimy episodes of Law and Order SVU. So you think Project Life is where all the boys become drug dealers and all the girls end up pregnant or working the pole. Well, I'm here to let you know you've been completely misinformed. Only some of the boys I grew up with turned to selling drugs. And only Portia, Chardonnay, and Mercedes made their money twerking naked at Leroy's Gentlemen's Club. But that was their parents' doing, if you ask me. If you want your daughter to land an office job, don't name her after a luxury vehicle or your favorite alcoholic beverage. Everybody knows job recruiters sort resumes into two piles. One for people they imagine would fit in at the office Christmas party, and the other for candidates with names like Alizé or BMW 600 series. Hey, I don't make these rules. I'm just saying. My experience growing up in the projects wasn't anything like you see on TV. Brewster Douglas is where I learned the important life lessons that really shape a woman. Like never count on a dainty girl to clean a fish. Shower curtains are not doors. And sometimes a big girl needs a big horn to make her happy. Now, I know these might not be the kind of inspirational tidbits you find in Hallmark cards. That's why I'm writing this book. I was born more than 3 decades after the first low-rise townhouses of the Brewster Douglas projects were completed in 1942. Over that time, the projects, located just north of downtown Detroit, grew and grew until eventually they occupied more than 5 city blocks and housed as many as 10,000 people. It's hard to imagine now, but back in the day, folks clamored to live in Detroit public housing. That's because, compared to the alternative, Brewster Douglas homes were considered a giant step up. Like a lot of black folks in the city, my family moved to Detroit from down south. My grandmother, Clarabelle, hailed from Alabama and brought my mama and her 3 sisters north sometime in the 1940s. Before Brewster Douglas homes were built, families like mine were forced to live in the worst part of town, in neighborhoods called Paradise Valley and Black Bottom. The houses were broken down and torn up. Some of them were little more than sheds without electricity or running water. But as more and more families like mine fled the Jim Crow South looking for a better life in Detroit, the government decided it needed a place to put all those poor black folks. And so the Brewster Douglas housing projects were born. It was basically government-funded segregation, public housing designated just for African Americans. Even so, one lady who's been living in the project since the 1950s told me that when she moved in, it felt like she died and gone to heaven. That's how much better Brewster Douglas was than life in Black Bottom. By the time I was living there, Brewster Douglas was like a city unto itself, with a bunch of row houses, a couple of 6-story buildings, and 5 14-story high-rise towers. I lived on the top floor of Building 7 with my mama and my older brother, Bruce. Our place had 2 bedrooms, which makes it sound almost luxurious. In fact, it was tiny. If you sat in the kitchen, you could watch the 13-inch black and white TV in the living room without even squinting. Every Saturday morning, I'd sit on a vinyl-covered kitchen chair watching the Jackson 5 and Schoolhouse Rock cartoons, while my mama pressed my hair with a hot comb she heated up on our electric stove. I only have one memory of my father, Nathan, who left our family when I was a baby. Now, in my recollection, my father had come by the apartment to visit. I remember him having a thick handlebar mustache and big eyes like mine. He was making himself a bath, and he said to me, "If you really want to get clean, you gotta put some bleach in the water." Don't ask me what he meant by that. All I know is him sharing his bathing habits sure didn't make me wish he was around more. As a kid, I had a lot of chores to take care of, including keeping the bathroom clean. Last thing I needed was some weird-ass dude using up all my cleaning supplies for his personal hygiene.